This is another exclusive rock music star interview. Conducted by Thomas S. ORWAT Jr.
Welcome to episode number 34 of the Rock Interview Series. I'm Thomas ORWAT Jr. It is September 17th, 2021, and I have singer-songwriter Fee Waybill of the legendary rock band The Tubes as my guest. This interview was recorded on Fee's 71st birthday. During our conversation, Fee discusses The Tubes' current 40th anniversary tour of their hit record, The Completion Backwards Principle. In addition, Fee talks about the history of the band from its formation to where they are now and their future plans. So here he is, Fee Waybill. Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 34 of the Rock Interview Series. And we have another legendary rock star with us today. We have none other than Fee Waybill of The Tubes with us today. And Fee, I want to say happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So what exciting things do you have planned for your birthday besides talking to us here at the Rock Interview Series?
Oh, geez. My wife and I are going to walk the dog as soon as we get done with this. And then this evening we have a tennis clinic over at her tennis club. I've been learning to play tennis. I realize it's a little late in life, but it's a really good exercise. And so we have a clinic tonight we're doing with a bunch of her friends. And then we're having Friday night is big Mexican night at the tennis club. So we're going to have dinner there. And then, we've had a nice day. We talked to her art teacher. Every Friday she does a Zoom meeting with her art teacher who is in Santa Fe. And she's a brilliant, well, my wife's brilliant, but the art teacher is really brilliant and really intuitive. And so I joined in with the meeting this morning and we talked about my birthday and about being grateful for everything that I've got and have had all these years. And, mostly I'm really grateful that we're, coming back to doing shows after all that time. And I was like serious case of anxiety for about 19 months.
Yeah.
Not ever knowing that it would ever come back, So we started a couple of weekends ago. We did our first show here in Southern California, and it was great, sold out. It was wonderful. And then we played a casino in Scottsdale, Arizona, where I'm from. And then we played an outdoor amphitheater in Sacramento or outside Sacramento. And it was great. I mean, everything went great. And so I'm just thrilled that, back to doing what I do.
Yeah. And this is a very exciting tour for you because it's the 40th year anniversary of the Completion Backwards Principle.
That's right.
Yes. And so you're playing are you playing the record in its entirety? Is that how this works?
Yeah. Top to bottom. First song is Talk to You Later. Usually Talk to You Later is the last song of the set, but no, Talk to You Later is the first song. Then we go right on through Sushi, Amnesia, Mr. Hate, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, and then side B.
Yep. Think About Me on side B, right?
About Me, Matter of Pride, Don't Want to Wait Anymore, Power Tools, Let's Make Some Noise.
Right.
All 10. And then a bunch of other songs. We're going to do What Do You Want From Life? And, obviously White Punks on Dope and She's a Beauty and, a bunch of other songs also.
Yeah. Now you said you have 3 shows on your belt so far. What was that first show like coming back after the long layoff?
Boy, it was pretty, I was, all those thoughts go through your head, can you still do it? Can you still walk on the big shoes? Can you still hit all the high notes? And, and I have to say that I didn't really, I wasn't really ready. I hadn't sung enough. although my voice held up really well, which surprised me. And ever since then, I've been singing every single day without fail, and at least 40 or 50 minutes. And so I don't want to, because I had a lot of anxiety and is my voice going to still be there, and on and on and on, which was stupid and could have been avoided. But, what are you going to do? So I've ever since then, every day since that last show, which was 22nd of August, every day I've sung at least 40 or 50 minutes, sing along with a Richard Marx album or a Vince Gill album, or mostly singers that sing high, Foo Fighters album, Roy Orbison albums, because what happens is, tenors lose that high end as they get older, and they become baritones. And then, so then what? Then you can't sing all those high notes, and you have to start lowering the key, and it's, I don't want to do all that. And so I've been really lucky, actually, that my voice has held up so well over the years. And I never had nodes. I never had to have surgery. I never, I used to do, I'm working on a book. Elizabeth and I are doing a book about my life, a big, like, coffee table book that's like that big, and it's called Fee Waybill's Guide to an Unknown Trail. And because, I never really planned a whole lot. It just kind of, the whole thing kind of happened. And so when my mother died back in 2004, I went back to the house I grew up in Scottsdale. And, we were going to, clear it out, sell the house, get rid of all the furniture, et cetera, et cetera. And in the closet, I found like 5 boxes full of stuff, full of every magazine we ever were in, every newspaper we were ever in, every, just this huge pile of memorabilia from my years in the tubes. And so that's what kind of prompted us. Just, we had all this material. So, well, let's do a book, with pictures and posters and stories. And I started doing interviews with a friend of ours who's helping us compile it, telling stories. But then we started looking at these old itineraries, and it was unbelievable. We would do like 10 in a row, 12 in a row in different cities every night, sleep in the bus all night long, get up, do another show, sleep in the bus all night long, get up, do another show. And 10 in a row, I just couldn't conceive. How could I have possibly done that? Like today, or this now, 3 in a row is my limit. After 3 in a row, sometimes a 4 in a row, if it's not too far away and easy, But what I used to do was acupuncture. I used to, first thing, we'd drive in the morning, drive into a city. I'd get the phone book out. I'd find an acupuncturist, and I'd book an appointment like 12 o'clock. I go to the acupuncturist. Sound check is at 2. 12 o'clock, I'm laying on a table in an acupuncture office with needles stuck right into my vocal cords, right there. They stick it right in there. And then all, on your thumbs and all these channels in your body, like they would follow all the channels. And I'd lay there for an hour, and I'd come in, maybe a little bit strained from, I don't know how many in a row. Sometimes I'd come in mute. I was so gone and couldn't speak. And every time it healed me. Every time. It was unbelievable. And I get out of there and I'm, singing like a bird. Go to the sound check. I'm good. Whatever. Let's do it. And so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I didn't, a lot of people took drugs, there's a drug, Decadron. There's a super steroid anti-inflammatory, and that you can either spray it right on your vocal cords, or you can take it in pill form, prednisone, and it just, like I said, it's a super steroid anti-inflammatory drug, and it really takes away the inflammation. Because what happens is they get inflamed and they swell up. And so instead of being this far apart, they swell up to where they're touching the two vocal cords, and then they don't vibrate, and you can't hit the high notes because they're not vibrating, they're so swollen. And so anyway, so I'm really grateful for that, for acupuncture, and to be able to still sing today like I did years ago.
Yeah, the one thing about the tubes is that you guys just didn't stand there on stage. Your shows were very theatrical and very physically involving. And for you to be able to do 10 in a row, I mean that's pretty impressive.
Unbelievable. I mean, I don't know how to explain it other than I was young. I wasn't 71. I was, 31. So I was. Oh, it was amazing. It was truly amazing. And we still do. I mean, we were talking this morning about it's performance art. And in the old days, that performance art was more heavily skewed toward the theatrical side and not so much the musical side. And I think today, we don't have 35 people on the road. We've got a 5-man band, and there's like 7 of us total, and it's more balanced. I still do the theatrics. I still have the big shoes. I still do Quaalude, and I still do all the characters that I did before and make a lot of costume changes. But now the music has come up level with the theatrical portion of the performance, and everybody, everybody is just so good. And after playing a song for 45 years, you pretty much get it right. So I think that's great. I think that's great that we've managed to level out, the factors of the performance.
I wanted to talk about your show that you're playing in the Buffalo area. On October, you're playing the Riviera in North Tonawanda, which is, right by Buffalo.
Right.
You've had some really great shows in the Buffalo area over the years. You played your very first show in Buffalo in 1975 at Buffalo State College. You played at the Century Theater a couple times, which is no longer here. And then you also played at the arena, the hockey arena, the Memorial Auditorium. You played in 1979. And I remember being like 14 years old and really wanting to go to that show, but my parents wanted nothing to do with me going to see the Tubes. I mean, the stories of a Tubes concert were just legendary. I mean, it was was it really as bad as the rumors were? I mean,
no,
I'm not getting myself.
They exaggerated so much. I mean, we got banned in places that we got banned before we ever got to town. It was crazy. I mean, albeit when we first started in San Francisco, you could get away with a lot. And when we first hired Leela and the Snakes, our dancing girls, 3 of them were strippers. Okay. So they weren't shy about being topless on stage at all. And a lot of shows, they were topless on stage. And and then we kind of realized, well, okay, we're going to go out of the road now and we're going to play Buffalo. We probably can't get away with topless girls on the stage in Buffalo. And so they would put on pasties, or they would wear a fancy bra or some kind of top. But the reputation preceded us. And, here we are, they're coming to Buffalo and they're topless and they have live sex on stage. And we're going, what? And I mean, it got so completely blown out of proportion. And on the one hand, it's selling tickets because everybody's going, oh my God, I gotta see this. And on the other hand, we're getting banned. Charleston, you're banned. In Southampton, England, you're banned. And so it just got completely blown out of proportion. And we loved it. We thought, this is great. We used to have, I remember one time we came into a city, I think it was St. Louis maybe, or somewhere in the Midwest, Kansas City, Missouri maybe, or Kansas City, Kansas, or whatever. And they came to us and they said, okay, now we know about you, we know of your reputation. And that's not for our city. And you're going to have to put up a $10,000 bond. And if you have nudity on stage, you're going to forfeit that $10,000. And, profanity, even down to profanity on the stage, you're going to have to, and so we're going, okay, whatever you say. And then we used to have this, and the guy would come to me, the city attorney or whoever the legal person was, he would come to me and tell me all this. Okay, we're going to have to put up a bond, and if you blow it, we're keeping the money. Okay, here's your bond. But we don't know. We don't have nudity on stage. And he goes, oh, I've seen it. I've heard about it. Your reputation precedes you. And we had this. We had this in a box. We had a nude leotard, okay? A nude leotard, full-bodied leotard. And it was painted with genitalia, with airbrush. Prairie would paint breasts and paint genitalia on, and this is what I'd show the guy. And I'd get it out of the box. I'd go, look, no, it's not real nudity. It's painted on. A leotard nudity. And you go, oh, really? Yeah, here it is right here. And I show the guy. He goes, oh, okay, well, okay, I guess you don't have to put up the bond then if that's what the deal is. And so then, we put the leotard back in the box, and then the girls would go out half naked. And so we did that so many times and got away with it, I mean, once the show's over, what are you going to do? You're going to come and go, okay, you blew it. Where's your $10,000? No, we're leaving. We're getting the bus and we drive away. It was crazy. It was really crazy.
Yeah, those were definitely, like you said, like being a kid. I mean, that was a show that I really wanted to see more than anything, and I couldn't get there. And I remember looking at the gatefold of the "What Do You Want From Live" record, and I felt like I was doing something wrong because it was so taboo. It was like, oh, I have a Tubes record in my hands. I'm looking at it, and it looked pretty extreme.
Yeah.
For those times, at least.
I mean, the first album, the Tubes album, had a disclaimer, a sticker on the outside of the album, and it said, "This album contains the word dope." It contains the lyric dope. I mean, that's where it was back then. Dope. It wasn't even a 4-letter F word, which was also on the album, but no, dope. It said dope. Oh my God. They said dope. White punks on dope. Oh, so yeah. We've come a long way.
Yes, for sure. When the Tubes first started out, I think you joined the Tubes in 1972, correct?
Well, the Tubes were two bands that combined. There was no originally, and both bands from Arizona. Roger and Prairie and a guy named David, a bass player, they had a trio in Arizona called the Red, White, and Blues Band. And Prairie got a scholarship he was an artist in high school, and he got a scholarship to the San Francisco Art Institute, 3-year full ride scholarship. So he's going, well, I mean, I gotta go, I gotta take this, I gotta go. And so they decided to move to San Francisco. And I was kind of, I had never been in a band. I was just a friend of theirs that you used to go watch them play at this little club in Phoenix called the VIP Club. And they said, well, you know, we need a roadie. We need somebody to drive the truck, the equipment truck to San Francisco. We're going to move there. And they said, you want to be the roadie? And I said, yeah, okay, I'll be the roadie. And so I drove the truck to San Francisco with all the equipment. And I became their roadie, the Red, White, and Blues Band's roadie. And I didn't know anything about it at all. I didn't, you know, all I knew was turn the ON switch in the ON position. I had no clue. And so we used to always, and friends would come up, and they had a big following in Phoenix back in those days, and people would come up to visit us, and we'd tell them about how great California was, and we you know, Arizona at the time was pretty red. It was pretty right wing. It was really, really hot. I mean, really hot, 120 every summer. And so people would come up to visit us, and we'd tell them how great it was, and so the Bill Spooner also had a band in Phoenix called the Beans, and the Beans also decided to move to San Francisco on our recommendation. So they moved there, and so both of these two Arizona bands were playing in San Francisco area, and then what happened was the two guys that were the managers of the two bands. And these were just other guys that we went to high school with. You know, they were no big management company or any kind of professional at all. They were just a couple of guys that wanted to, oh, I'll be the manager. Oh, okay, you could be the manager. Come on. And so what happened was they ended up. The Rogers Band. We rented this house in the Sunset District of San Francisco. And it was this little 2-story house, and the walls were as thin as paper. It was tiny. And the bottom floor was the garage, and the second floor was the living room and kitchen and bedrooms. And the band used to practice in the basement. We set all our gear up in the basement and we practiced in the basement. Well, I mean, you could hear it for 10 blocks away. The whole neighborhood, you could hear us practicing. And people used to stand around outside the garage door and listen to us practice. And so there was a guy, he was a pot dealer, okay? His name was Spike. And Spike used to hang around and then give us pot, right? And so, you know, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have money to spend on marijuana. And so, but the bass player just started smoking marijuana every day. He was just completely whacked. And he got so whacked every day that he couldn't rehearse. You know, and he was the lead singer, and he couldn't cut it. And so they just couldn't take it anymore. And they finally fired him. They let him go. And so he moves away, and they still want to rehearse. And so I knew all the songs and I knew all his vocals. So I would go down and sing his part. And he was also the bass player, and I couldn't play bass, but just Roger and Perry would practice and I would sing the vocal. And they tried to find another guy to play bass. And I remember we put an ad in the Haight-Ashbury Free Press, bass player needed, you know, and the phone number of our house. And they auditioned like all these guys. All kinds of people responded to it. You know, everybody read the Haight-Ashbury Free Press back then, and but they couldn't find a guy that was any good. And they kept trying and trying and trying, and they didn't play. You know, Roger and the band played original material. They didn't play cover songs. You know, it wasn't learn a Beatles song. They didn't play. It was all complicated original material. And so they finally gave up trying to find a bass player. And the manager of Bill's band and the manager of Roger's band got together and they said, well, let's merge the two bands together and have a Arizona super band. And so they went, okay. And so, and Bill's band was guitar, bass, keyboards, drums. So Roger and Prairie joined his band. And so they had two guitar players and two drummers. And then I said, well, you know, and they already had 3 roadies that he brought from Phoenix with them. They didn't need me. And so I said, well, you know, how about if I'm the background singer? I can sing. I'm a good singer. And Roger went, yeah, he's a good singer. Let him be the background singer. So I did. So I became the background singer. And then, you know, they kept saying, you sing too loud. Your background singers are supposed to blend in with, you know, you're not supposed to be singing that loud. And I well, why don't you let me sing lead then? Because I can sing and I can sing loud. So then I became the lead singer. So that's how, so then when the two bands merged together, for a while, it was called the Beans. And then not for very long. And then some other band from New Jersey or something released an album called Beans, not the Beans, just Beans. And we went, what do you mean that we're the Beans? And I even remember trying to call the record company that released the album, United Artists, maybe, I can't remember the name of the record company. I said, no, we're the Beans. You can't be the Beans. We have a band called the Beans. And they went, well, you know, we published an album. Okay, so we're published. So we're the Beans. You guys, that's tough. That's tough luck for you. You can't be, unless you have a published name, you have no rights. And so we changed the name to the Tubes. And that's where the Tubes started.
Yeah, that I think that was a pretty good change from the Beans to the Tubes, definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
How soon did White Punks on Dope come after the formation of the band?
Well, we had a bunch of songs, like Bill had a bunch of songs and Roger had a bunch of songs, and we developed a following we played around little clubs in San Francisco, and we kind of you know, even as a completely unknown band, we developed this following. And it turns out that this following was a lot of rich kids from San Francisco who could buy drugs, pretty much. And they would come to the show and give us drugs. And so that's where the song came from, White Punks on Dope, was about these kids, you know, these punks that always showed up on drugs and gave us drugs, and, you know, wrecked their cars because they were too high. And then they went out and bought a new car the next day. And they were, you know, children of wealthy San Francisco families. And so that's where the song came from. And, you know, I have some party, I don't know, I can't remember. I didn't write the song. Bill wrote it with a guy who was a friend of ours from San Francisco, from Arizona, who had also moved. A number of people just moved to California because of our recommendation, because we told them how great California was and get the hell out of Phoenix. And a bunch of people moved there. And he was one of those people, and he wrote the lyrics, and he was kind of a friend of the band before we moved, and he would come to shows all the time and knew of these rich white kids that followed us around, and they wrote the song.
Mm-hmm. Now, was there a lot of record label interest in your band, you know, obviously before you signed?
No, No, pretty much, pretty much. There was no interest. We sent cassette tapes to everybody, and we did. You know, we didn't. We our man at the time. Our management was not exactly what you would call professional. One of the guys was a waiter, and the other guy was a cab driver. Okay, Morton Gary, their name was. Bag of Bucks Management. It was called Bag o' Bucks Management Company. And they sent tapes to everybody, and nobody was interested. And but then, and White Punks was one of the songs that we put on the tape. But then what happened is we made a video of us doing White Punks and me doing this kind of quasi Quaalude character that I hadn't really developed yet, but it was kind of, you know, so we set videotapes around to everybody and, you know, showing, oh, that we're more of a theatrical kind of band. And that's what changed everything. We got a guy at A&M Records, Kip Cohen was his name, at A&M, thought it was great and thought we were great. And he talked Herb and Jerry into signing us at A&M. That was 74. And then we made a record. Our first record was 75.
Yeah, and White Punks on Dope. I mean, that was the first Tube song I heard on the radio. What was the original or the reception to the song at first? Was it like a big radio hit right away, or did it take some time to
No,
develop?
no, it wasn't a radio hit. It wasn't released as a single on that first album. They released What Do You Want From Life? And that was their first single. And then, and what they did though was, you know, the end of What Do You Want From Life, where I go into the whole rap about, if you're an American citizen, you're entitled to a heated kitchen pool, a microwave oven, don't watch the food cook, a dynagym, I'll personally demonstrate the privacy of your own home. And that whole rap at the end of the song, they cut it out because they thought, oh, well, no, we don't want them to be perceived as a novelty band and this kind of comedy at the end. And so they cut, and that just killed the whole thing. We never had a single hit the charts on that first album. And then, and we did the second album, we did have a song hit the top 40, Don't Touch Me There, was a song that Jane, who was one of the four dancers, had written with another guy, not in the band, another guy who wrote the music. And that was our first charted single. And then we didn't have another. And White Punks on Dope was released as a single after the fourth album, which was a live album. What Do You Want From Live? Live in England, live in London. And the live version was released, and you know, to mixed results. I mean, I can't say I even know what it charted at. And then we never had another hit until then we did the last album on A&M was Remote Control. There was a single off of that called Primetime, which was a duet from with me and Rhys Styles that did really well in England, but not very well in the United States. And then they released us. A&M did, after 5 albums. And we went to Capitol, and that's when we met David Foster. And David Foster and I wrote Talk to You Later. And we actually started, you know, having radio airplay.
Yeah, that not only radio airplay, but also MTV exposure. I remembered seeing you guys constantly on MTV, and that definitely had to help out sales a lot.
Oh yeah. MTV just started. I mean, that was right. I think MTV started in 80, 81, something like that, which was coincided with the release of Completion Backward Principle. Yeah.
I was very interested and hearing a little bit about remote control. That to me kind of seemed like the bridgeway from like the real theatrical, like kind of like cult following Tubes to like the more commercially successful band. Do you agree with that?
Well, Remote Control was not very commercially successful. I don't think it sold.
But I mean, stylistically.
But stylistically, and what happened was, excuse me, what happened was, I read this book. I started that album. I read a book called Being There by Jerzy Kosinski, who had a big hit with a book called The Painted Bird, which was about the Holocaust and World War II. And Being There at the time, Being There, as you may know, later became a movie with Peter Sellers about the rich person's kid who they didn't pay any attention to, and they just stuck him in front of a TV all day long while they went to work, and he had no actual experiences. It was all a virtual world for him, watching TV all day long. And I read this book, and like I said, it was before the movie came out, and I thought, God, this is a great idea for the Tubes, to come up with a story about a kid who just all he does is watch TV. And the way it kind of related to me was that's all we did when we were kids in Arizona, and it was 120 degrees outside. That's all you did. You stayed inside and you watched TV all day long. You watched game shows, you watched Westerns, you watched, Gunsmoke, you watched The Rifleman, you watched The Virginian, you watched Wanted Dead or Alive, all of these TV Westerns. I mean, I loved them. And so that was kind of us. I mean, that was in a strange way us, the kid who watched TV all day long. And so I was going to say, we had up to that point, what we would do is we would go out on tour in like March or April, and we would tour all year long until like Thanksgiving. We'd be in the bus the entire year, and then you'd come home. And so for December, January, February, you have to come up with a new album, right? That's when you went in the studio, you made a new album. Then they would release the album in March, and then do the promotion, and then you go out on tour in April. Well, and at that point, that was, we had gone through a number of producers at A&M. First, we had Al Cooper, and then we had Ken Scott, and then we had John Anthony, and then we did the live album with Pete Henderson, and then we came up with Todd Rundgren for Remote Control. But the problem was it took so long to try to figure out who the producer was going to be. It came down to the point where we had 1 month to record and put a whole record together. We had 1 month. And then, the release had to be here, and then the promotion had to be here, and then the tour was already booked, and it was starting in April. So I think there was a month of January, and we had to do the whole thing in a month. And so, we sat down with Todd. He goes, okay, well, what do you have in the way of material? Well, we had nothing. We had no material because, at this point, we had a lot of material on the first record, not quite so much on the second record. Third record was bad material. Fourth record was a live album. And so here we were getting ready to do the fifth album on A&M, and we didn't have a whole lot of material at all and hadn't been writing. And so I told Todd about this whole, I wrote it out longhand, like 25 pages of a story of the kid watching TV all day long. And he goes, okay, well, and we only had 1 month. And so he says, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to all meet every morning. We'll go to the studio, and it was in San Jose. So it was, not too far from San Francisco where we lived. And we're going to come into the studio, and up until from the beginning of the day up until lunch, we're going to sit there and we're going to talk this out, and we're going to write the lyrics. And then we're going to go to lunch. And then after lunch, we're going to come in, we're going to figure out what the music is, and we're going to record it that day. And so the first day we come in and we all sit down together, all 7 of us and Todd, and we go, okay, here's the concept. It's a boy who watches TV all day long. Okay, what's the first thing you do? Turn me on. You turn it on. That's the first thing. You turn it on. So the first day we write, turn me on. And then in the afternoon, we come in and we record, turn me on. And at this point, we were doing basic tracks. So we figured, well, we'll come back later to do overdubs, solos, vocals. Second day, we get into the studio. Okay, turn me on. Okay, what's next? What's the second song? You really like TV, right? Yeah. Okay, well, TV is king. Okay, TV is king. And so we wrote that song. And we continued all the way through the entire album. What came next? What is next? What's the next logical step? And I think the reason that, and I always, I think a problem, the term, you can't beat the demo, okay? Which is kind of a recording term. You write this great demo, and then you go in the studio, and you got a little crappy demo on a cassette tape, and you go in the studio and you try to reproduce that. And what do? You run it into the ground. You completely bastardize the original impulse, the original gut feeling that made the demo great. And because you try this and you try that and you try this and you try that and you redo it again and you do it again, and you constantly second guess yourself. Oh, well, this could be a little bit, let's try it this way. And then what ends up happening after 15 tries, you go back to the first way, to the demo. And so we didn't have the luxury to do that on remote control. And where we had done that for 3 albums before in the studio, trying everything, every sound, do it this way. Well, let's try it this way. Let's try it this way. Let's try it this way. And we didn't have the time. We didn't physically have the time to do that. And so all of those songs were the demo. All of those songs were, we couldn't even attempt to beat the demo because we didn't have the time. No, that's it. Okay, tomorrow we're moving on to the next song. Next day is the next song. So you couldn't beat the demo. You couldn't second guess yourself. So all of those songs were the gut. That was the instinct. That was the first creative idea. And that's why I love that album. It's because, it's the first creative idea. It's the demo. We didn't have time to beat the demo. And so we didn't have to go through step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of a sudden 12 to 15, and then back to step 1. We couldn't do it. It was just, so anyway, that's the remote control story.
Yeah, it's surprising that you were dropped after that record, even though commercially it didn't meet expectations. But the Tubes were like headlining hockey arenas at the time.
Yeah, I know. Well, it was because of the live reputation. It was because of we were talking about that this morning, with the art teacher, the performance art of the Tubes, and it is performance art. In the beginning, the theatrical side of the performance art outweighed or overshadowed the musical side, right? And so it was all about this incredible production, these vignettes, this entire play for every song, different costumes, different choreography, and Kenny Ortega, really created that for us. And, every song was a different beginning and middle and end of a play. And I think, that's one of the reasons maybe in the early days we didn't sell a lot of records, because people would be so blown out by the visual presentation that they would go home and develop the film in their Kodak camera, instead of go buy the record. And so I think it was out of proportion. The performance art was the theatrical so outweighed the music that people didn't understand that the music, wait, these guys are really good. They can really play, but that got kind of, submarined, as the French might say. And, but then I think now we've got that back in proportion, back in balance, because, we did this for, God, how many years? 15 years, almost 14 years. We did that same thing, record in January, tour all the way through a whole year, and then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. And then finally everybody just got so fried, that we ended up breaking up, and we just couldn't do it anymore. And we broke up in like 88 or so. And then we got an offer. We weren't going to get back together. I mean, but we were big time in Europe, and we did really, really well in Europe and England and Western Europe. And a promoter from Germany, in 1993, a promoter got a hold of us and said, I want to offer you a 65 show tour of Europe if you'll get back together. And we just kind of went, really? And so, okay. And so we got back together, and then it was skewed the other way, because we said, well, we're not going to let the theatrical completely outshadow the music like we did before. Now we're just going to do music. No show, no nothing, no big shoes, no Quaalude, just the music. And so we went and did that 65 show tour, and we did nothing. We did no costumes, nothing. We just played the music. And the people would look at us like, and they'd have this kind of, okay, well, when does the show happen? Where are the big shoes? What's happening? Where's Quaalude? What's happening? And we never did it. And that, finally we came to the realization that no, this is not your reputation that you created. You've got to somehow find a way to level out these two expectations. Your expectation to make the music the most important, and the people's expectation who want to see the dog and pony show. They want to see tits and ass. They want to see the one-legged ballerina. They want to see so then we kind of started working to level it all out. And that's kind of where we are now. And, I still do Quaalude. I still wear the 18-inch platform shoes. I still do 7 or 8 different characters during the show, but a lot of the time I don't do that. A lot of the time I don't do any character. I just sing, and the band just plays. And so, we've got a formula that works now. And like for Buffalo, we're going to do the completion backward principle. We did that, and we did that before there. But I think that I think North Tonawanda was the only place of this entire show tour of October. We're doing 12, 13 shows in October, and North Tonawanda was the only one where we had played completion backward principle before, and we went, well, okay, let's, and we don't like to do that. We don't like to come back and do the same thing we did last time. And we always come up with a different theme, a different, La Dolce Vita was one show, and we did this whole Fellini kind of tribute thing. And then we did the Mondo Pulp show, where it was a Quentin Tarantino Pulp Fiction kind of a tribute show, and all kind of relating to that. And we've always done that. We've always had kind of a theme that we build a new show around. And we thought, well, we only one of these shows we haven't done completion, and Completion Backward Principle has gotten such great response, and it's such a fun show to do. We went, okay, well, let's just do it, and then what? We'll go to North Tonawanda and we'll hope they forgot or something, But that's what we're doing. I mean, we start with Talk to You Later, and we do the whole album, and then we do all these other songs, and that's the deal. Okay, that's what the deal is.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome. My last question for you, Fee, and again, thank you very much for doing this interview, especially on your birthday. I appreciate it. My last question is, do you think there ever will be another Tube studio record?
Oh, well, that's a tough question. I don't know. I don't know that I just released a solo album about a year ago that I did with Richard Marx, and I really enjoyed it. And and he produced it, and he's done a couple of Tubes productions in the past. I would love to do a new Tubes album. And we do have some songs in the can that we've had in the can for a long time. And but it's just, everybody is in a different city. There's no record company. Nobody's going to give you any money to go make a record. Nobody is making records. And so I don't know. I can't give you a good answer on that. I don't know. I just don't know.
All right. Well, I have to tell you though, your last solo record was absolutely fantastic. I love the diversity of it.
Oh, well, thank you. Richard and I have been friends for 40 years, and we started that album like in 2015 or 14. We wrote the first song, Faker, and for years we said, well, let's write some more, and let's finish this. And then he would go off on tour, and then I would go off on tour, and then he lives in Chicago and I live in LA. And then finally he ended up moving to California, and in the like summer of 2019, he calls me up and goes, we don't have any more excuses. I'm here. I just live down the street. Okay, come over. Let's get this done. Let's put it to bed here. And so we did. We finished it in beginning of 2020, and then of course the pandemic hit, and we thought, well, no, maybe we shouldn't release. And then we went, no, now everybody's quarantined, so they got no choice. They want new music. We're gonna cram it down your throat, as Kenny used to say. And so I really enjoyed it, and I would love to do a Tubes record, and we will. I know we will. I know there'll come a point where we'll go, oh, okay, Prairie is the one that's hard to get. Prairie plays with everybody because he's so good, and Roger and I have actually kind of long distance writing some songs together. And so I think it's just a matter of time. And, give me another 10 years. And maybe if we can come up with something.
I hope it's not 10 years, but yeah, as long as we get something. Well, Fee, thank you again. I will see you October in North Tonawanda at the Riviera. I'm really looking forward to the show.
Oh, great. And we'll do a meet and greet like we always do. So, pin me down.
Oh, for sure.
Remind me. Okay, man.
All right. Sounds good. Enjoy the rest of your birthday, Fee. And thank you again.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. It was great.
Thank you very much. See ya.
Really fun. Okay. Bye-bye.
See ya.